reporter with the South Bend Tribune, a good friend of mine, and obviously he knows you guys as well. Austin Hough from the South Bend Tribune joins us on the Black Sedan Hotline for Coach's Corner.
Austin, good evening. How are you? This is Coach King.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, I can't. Talk a little louder.
No.
Jeez, you blew my ears off.
Perfect. Hey,
I promise I wasn't talking that loud.
I'm just playing with you, man.
hey, welcome.
Good.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me on. Hopefully I can provide some insight. I don't know, sometimes, but maybe like blind squirrels, finding a nut every once in a while. Like maybe I'll say something smart here.
Well, so I don't want to like make you think twice about saying stuff, but the owner of the Tribune is listening tonight, so if he thinks you don't know nothing, man, you may want to say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, man. I'll call you guys next week.
Yeah, trust us. We've only got there's only a couple hundred people listening right now, so you're okay.
You're all right, man.
Maybe I'll help.
Good.
I was hoping that, as much football, and not football, but all the other sports too. And we'll talk about that here in a second. You've seen probably every team around here at least once, and I just thought maybe we'd go through. You've got your little top 10, and for you people at home, when you read the Morning Tribune, and he's got that top 10 high school teams, this is the guy that's writing that article. So if you have any questions for Austin, you can ask him, and if you want any arguments, send them in tonight, and we'll decide whether we want to tell him about them or not.
Hey, Austin,
email is ahough@gannett.com. I don't care. Put it out there.
There you
If you have a
go.
question or a qualm, you feel free to send it my way.
Give us your top 10, Austin.
Oh, God, you're going to maybe test it off the top of my head. 10, number one. Yeah, 10's number one. I've seen the Kingsmen play. Only saw him once this year, actually, so far against Mishawaka, but I'm going to see him again this week against New Prairie, so we'll see.
Oh, you're coming out with us?
I am. You can't get rid of me just yet.
You are like
See, the problem is he likes you guys better than he likes me. That's the problem. He didn't come to my games.
He's been a frequent flyer out there with us.
Where's that game at?
Play this
Prairie.
week too, man. Yeah,
I know.
it's at New Prairie.
Yep, that's number 1 and 2 in your neighborhood, right?
1 and 2. I put New Prairie second this week. New Prairie, I think we all were wondering what was going on after week 1, that loss to LaPorte. But if there's never been an indication of week 1 not mattering to the rest of the season, look at what New Prairie and LaPorte have done since then. That has been a drastic turnaround since that week 1. In hindsight, the most puzzling result probably of the whole year is LaPorte beating New Prairie week 1. And then I kind of cheated this week. This is the first week I've ever really done this in a power ranking ever. I just tied for third Mishawaka, Northridge, and Northwood because I don't know how you fairly put them in an order right now. Mishawaka beat Northridge, who beat Northwood, who beat Mishawaka, and they're all pretty good. And it's like splitting hairs between which one of them is better right now. I guess Northwood has the 2 losses, so maybe they go down a step, but
And right now, it really doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And we were talking about that in the press box. You were kind of throwing some ideas with Kenny and myself there after the game on Friday night over at New Prairie, and you had mentioned that you may just put all 3 of them at the same time. And here we are at the end of week 7, starting week 8. So
yeah.
I think I think it's a great idea, and I'm sure if you talk to any of the fans, they understand what you're doing. How are you going to decide which one's better than the other? You can't right now.
The only outlier in a sense is that Mishawaka beat Warsaw, Northwood lost to Warsaw, but so that would maybe you put Northwood just slightly below Mishawaka if you want to go with that argument. Especially because Mishawaka manhandled Warsaw and then Warsaw manhandled Northwood. So if you're going to make that argument, but Northwood then beat Mishawaka in an instant classic on Friday. So
that was how do you do that? That's a game. Too? Heck, you missed that one. You missed an overtime game over at Northwood. He was down in Atlanta. Well, then you saw the number 6 team. Who's your number 6?
Riley.
South Bend Riley.
I still people were questioning what Riley was. 6-0 start, but who have they beaten, right? And you were there on Friday night. They played step for step with New Prairie for 3 quarters.
All right, offensively, how much better? Have you seen Riley before that game?
This was my first time seeing them.
Okay.
I've watched them on a couple replays, but this was the first time in person I had seen them.
How good would they have been with their best wide receiver, who was really their only wide receiver? You know, he got hurt the second play of the game. He didn't even play a whole minute.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. It would have definitely been a maybe more compelling game, but you gotta, the quarterback is part of that equation too. And some of the passes from Austin White just weren't there. They weren't on time or they were accurate. There wasn't a lot of drops necessarily from the Riley wide receivers on Friday night. It was more so overthrows, underthrows, slightly off target, but it would have been another threat at least. Maybe Riley would have gotten the running game going a little better with Marvin Schindler out there, but. I mean, all things considered, obviously Riley wishes they would have won the game, but they played well for 3 quarters, and now they can learn from that. Hey, maybe we shouldn't be as aggressive. You don't want to tell your team to not be aggressive, but the play action passes were killing them. They killed them all night. You can learn from that now. They're going to get a real test throwing the ball this week with Bremen. Tyrus Graverson leads the state in receiving yards right now. Got a story coming on him later this week, SouthBendTribune.com. There's a cheap plug right there.
Sure, you're allowed.
So, they've this is a serious throwing team that they're going to be facing on Friday night. You can't be as aggressive as they were against New Prairie. New Prairie obviously not known for throwing the ball, and they still threw for 300 yards. So now you get a team that does want to throw the ball. Interested to see how Riley's defense attacks the pass first offense in Bremen this week. So
yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yes, Riley 6th in my power rankings, and then I put LaVille 7th. How about LaVille? Looked dead to rights against Glenn. Came back, won 31-27 after trailing 27-10 in the first, or I think it might have been halftime, or definitely in the third quarter. LaVille with a nice comeback. They're really good about that come postseason, but LaVille is a really, really solid 2A team, and they are playing well. Their only loss is to Knox, who's undefeated, and Knox is a really good 3A team this year. So, and you're going to have one loss. I guess a good loss to have. Concord, I put Concord 8th. The Minutemen, their losses have been, pretty competitive. The only one that's been bad was Northwood. They lost to them by 24 earlier in the year, but lost by 7 to Warsaw, lost by 7 to Northridge. Like, they are, a player or two away from potentially being 6-1. I watched their game with Northridge. It was on TV 46 this week. I watched the replay today, and they had a couple touchdowns called back penalties. So, I mean, they had a chance, early in that game to be up 14-0, 21-0 even, and really change the dynamic of that game.
Well, I think you're going to find. Yeah, I was going to say with Concord. Let's what you're saying is very accurate. And who do they play this coming Friday? I think that's going to be that's going to be their little, we'll call it a final exam before tournament, because you're saying they're better now than they were in early September. Let's see how much better they are, because that'll be a good challenge for them.
If you thought Northwood beating Mishawaka threw a monkey wrench in the NLC race, Concord beats Mishawaka this week, and all of a sudden, everyone's looking at Week 9, Northridge versus Warsaw.
Yes,
in Warsaw as the conference championship game. I think Northridge, after they lost to Mishawaka, the first conference game of the year, they lost to them by 21. I don't know how many people thought, Northridge would be there at the end, still potentially in this conference championship race, and here they are as one of the 3 teams tied, and Concord kind of controls the fate here of if we're going to see that Northridge-Warsaw game, Week 9, be for the outright conference championship.
Right, and Mishawaka is pretty good, and especially Mishawaka is very good at home.
I mean, Austin, I will tell you
it's
this.
going to be a tough match.
Yeah,
Austin, I will tell you this.
But,
if Concord beats
Concord played the Mishawaka equivalent in Week 4 and against Warsaw, and that was a 10-3 game.
Yep.
So
if Concord beats Mishawaka, Austin, there needs to be an investigation, okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Stop right there. Stop right there. Number 9, Triton.
I know who I'm talking to. Okay, I know who I'm talking to.
Number 9.
Triton.
Just say, yeah.
How about Triton? Maybe candidate for surprise team of the year. I know they've been solid at the 1A level or 2A level, but they whooped North Judson this past week, 40-7. They don't think anyone saw that coming.
Right.
They're 5-2. Zach Whitaker in his first year as head coach really got the boys down there playing well. They have weapons everywhere. It seems like on offense. Cole Shively. not sure how to pronounce it, but he's been really good at quarterback for them all year. Javon May had 4 catches for 162 yards and 3 touchdowns this week. So that's pretty good. They've just had different guys go off, it seems like, every week. They could be a sneaky team down there at the 1A, 2A level there. And, I mean, who knows? You know, you get growing and you never know what's going to happen. But they have been kind of a surprise. And, again, they got a big one this week with Knox. And if they win that game, all of a sudden Triton, Knox, and LaVille all sit there with 1 loss in conference.
Right.
Going into the final week of the season.
Now, the nice thing,
3-way tie.
Yeah, I was going to say, the nice thing for them, Austin, is Triton and Judson are in the same sectional at 1A. LaVille, even though they're the same conference, LaVille's in 2A. So it's not like, so it's the season challenges, which, and that's the fun part of it for the conference. And that's why they've got that conference the way it is. But I think that the rematch between Triton and Judson will be a dandy. So who's your number 10 team?
At number 10, the Elkhart Lions have triumphantly made their return to the power rankings. Maybe I know probably Elkhart would probably beat Triton if they played head-to-head. The head-to-head, I understand the arguments. If you want to power rank them by that, it would look a little different. But just power rankings meant to kind of go off resumes, in my opinion, of who's playing well and who's doing good things. Elkhart, the last 2 weeks, I know the competition overall, the quality of overall competition has decreased in the last couple of weeks with Adams. And the week before that, they played St. Joe. St. Joe's a solid team, but it wasn't, Penn and the Massillon, Ohio team that they played week 4. Right? It's a little different level of a competition. But Elkhart, maybe they figured things out. They got another winnable game this week with Marion on the road, and then they close with New Prairie in the regular season. The issue for Elkhart's they're in a really tough sectional. Penn, Shortway, Carroll, and Warsaw, the other 3 teams in their sectional at the 6A level. But look, when you get to the end of this power ranking, it's been really tricky this year. For the whole year, there's been kind of a clear-cut, in my opinion at least, top 5, 6, maybe 7 in that area.
Right. And
then when you get to 8 through whatever, it's kind of a hit or miss. St. Joe's been ranked in there. Bremen's been ranked in there. John Glenn's been in that 9-10 range. They were actually 9th last week. Their loss to LaVille kind of dropped them, but for the most part this year, the top 6 in any order have been Penn, Mishawaka, Northridge, Northwood, New Prairie, and then, LaVille's kind of been that 6th team. Riley.
Well, I mean, you got to talk about Riley. Riley's undefeated, man.
Right.
No, it escaped my mind. I was just trying to rattle them off.
Okay, let me ask you this question, Austin. Let me ask you this question. So do you consider Knox not South Bend area?
We do not cover Knox. No, we do not cover Knox.
Okay, but you cover Triton, but you don't cover Knox.
That is, I'm just doing what I'm.
I'm just asking because I didn't know, because obviously Knox beats LaVille, and LaVille's ranked 7th, and Knox is undefeated.
If we were covering Knox and Warsaw, those 2 teams would be in our top 10 for sure.
Sure.
But they're part of our official coverage area anymore, so I'm just going off of what I was told to include in our power rankings.
Let me say this. Let me say this much to you. So, Ron Heklinski's first coaching job was where?
I know where it is.
Was where?
Knox.
Was Knox High School? Knox High School.
I thought you were making me answer the question. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I was trying to whisper it to you. I didn't do
my
very
first year out of Manchester College, I lived out in Bass Lake. I was the freshman basketball coach and assistant varsity football coach as a Knox Redskin, and lived right across the street from a place called the Capri Club on Bass Lake, and just absolutely had a ball. I thought I was still in college, man.
I can imagine.
But I'm working. I mean, it was great. Hey, listen, man, we certainly appreciate your insight. So what do you think about Marion? What do you think about St. Joe? I mean, who wins that game, St. Joe Marion?
Feels like St. Joe is there. They've had some. They had a nice start there. They've lost 3 in a row now, but again, they've lost to New Prairie, Penn, and who else?
Elkhart.
This past week is Elkhart. Yeah.
Elkhart.
So yeah, they lost in a row. New Prairie, Penn, Elkhart, or Elkhart, Penn, and then so that's a gauntlet for them. That's a really tough 3 games. 3 of the better teams in the area, obviously in the 6A teams, but It feels like St. Joe is in a better spot right now than Marion. I know they have the same record right now, technically, but Marion's wins are over Culver Academy. I don't believe Angola. They beat Angola this past week. I think Angola is still winless this year. If they're not, they're 1-6. The
That's
Hornets are
great
struggling.
schedule. That's great
Great
scheduling by
schedule.
Marion. That's what I'm going to say
Yeah.
right now.
Austin, before I let you go, let me ask you one thing about a different
Yes.
topic. You've got this every week. You do the Tribune Player of the Week, and then you have nominees. Is that where
Yes.
people call in, write in, phone in, text in? How does that work?
Usually, I'm on top of it, and I like to pick the nominees. But if people have nominees, they can send them in. There's no rules with that. But usually, I'm fairly on top of it.
Okay.
So I like to be able to pick and choose who the
So
nominees are.
coaches nominate, and then you make a decision. Because I was looking this week. This week it was all football players. I think last week it was
Well, we do.
last week it was maybe one football player.
We do two different polls. We do
Okay.
a football player of the week, and then we do an athlete of the week, which is non-football players.
Okay, well, I saw
So
the
we like to
football
kind
one.
of split them up. We kind of try to do a football player of the week, and then we still want to recognize and honor the other athletes that are doing things, in the area. So we have an athlete. We call it the athlete of the week. Makes it seem like football players aren't athletes, but obviously they are. It's just what we call it.
I understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's
I
good.
think
That's
it's
great. But see, I think it's great because you're promoting, kids from all over the area, and it gives them a little bit of recognition, similar to what we do on game days when we do a Lineman of the Game award.
At broadcastsport.net.
Yes.
The Rocks,
Just a
man.
plug.
We get
for
the, they
John
get the rock.
Overmeyer.
That kid from North Newton this weekend, he looked at me and goes, wow, this is cool. He didn't have a
Yeah.
clue what we were doing. So
It's the
anyways,
only thing they're going to win this year, probably.
That's
It's unfortunate, but,
that rock they took back was probably the only thing they got. Listen, Austin, we're up against the clock. I appreciate you taking a couple minutes here and talking with us and filling us in. You will be with us, I guess, for the New Prairie Penn game on Friday night. So I will see you.
Bring another. Hey, I'm sitting outside, but bring me a headset so I can join the broadcast. Obviously,
We can do that.
It sounds like a
We
good
can do-
idea.
That's a great idea.
Bring me on.
We'll
I'm as much of a New Prairie expert as Ken Peterson right now.
Oh,
let me
my
tell you.
Oh,
So-
geez.
Now, and you know what?
Now Austin's stirring the pot.
Austin, you know what?
Kenny will give us a call here in a
We
minute.
get you out. We get you out there in the public. They've got an election coming. It's an election year in New Carlisle for mayor, so you might want to think about that.
I don't have to think about how to spell Kamischek anymore. It's awesome. So, Kopchinski, I'm still working on, but Kamischek, I've got it.
You got that one.
Kamiepik.
That sounds good.
So,
All right, Austin.
Austin, thanks, buddy. We'll
Gentlemen,
talk with you down the
appreciate
road.
it. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you Friday night in New Carlisle.